Hi there, this is Pastor Cahill. I'm making this video today because we lost our audio portion of our adult Bible class um, video on Sunday when we were talking about the book of Esther. And so I thought I would kind of bring you up to date on that. I hope that we'll have the audio portion and the video this coming Sunday. But here's what happened. We were looking at the book of Esther, and I'd encourage you to take some time and read the first 3 chapters of the book of Esther sometime this week. But here's what was happening. The people of Israel found themselves as prisoners of war and refugees in the country of Persia. Now, the city of Jerusalem had been destroyed some years before by the Babylonians, but the Babylonians themselves were taken over by the Persian Empire. So when Esther begins, we're in the capital city of Persia, which is Susa, and the king, whose name is Xerxes, is throwing a massive banquet and celebration to celebrate himself, basically, is what it is. He invites all the important people and the nobles to come, and for 6 months they tour the palace, and then they have this massive banquet that lasts for 7 days. Somewhere along the line, toward the end of that, King Xerxes calls on Queen Vashti to come and present herself to all his friends. Well, she refuses to do that, and so he deposes her. She's no longer the queen. She disappears from history, never to be seen again. But now he's in a dilemma. He needs a new queen. He's got all kinds of women in the harem, but he decides to send out into the whole kingdom searching for beautiful young women, possibly one of them to become his queen, sort of like in Cinderella, right? So Esther is there. Esther is a Jewish girl, and her cousin is Mordecai. He's much older than she is, and so she is living with Mordecai and his family because her parents were killed in the wars. And so Esther goes to the palace to become one of the candidates to be the new queen. And she's going to spend the whole year having beauty treatments and training her to be the queen before the king even decides to choose her. In the meantime, Mordecai is there every day, going to the palace every day to check on her, make sure she's doing all right. Now, he also tells Esther, don't let on that you're a Jew. Just keep it quiet for a while. And we'll use that if we need to later. At the end of the year, Esther comes before King Xerxes. He immediately falls in love with her. He immediately makes her his queen, and that's great. Well, Mordecai keeps on checking on her every day. And in this checking, as he goes back and forth to the palace, he finds out that there are 2 palace guards who are plotting to kill the king. So he tells Esther. Esther tells the king, those guys are gone. Okay? And the king is even more pleased with Esther now, but she still hasn't told him that she's a Jew. Now there comes along a fellow named Haman, who is some kind of administrator, I guess, in the palace. And he gets it into his head that he should have everybody bow down to him because he's so highfalutin. So he makes this order that everybody around should bow down whenever they see him coming. Well, when he's walking along the street one day, Mordecai refuses to bow down to him. He's just not about to do that. Okay, remember Daniel back in Babylon and then in Persia? He refused to bow down and worship anybody except the Lord who had brought them out of Egypt, the people of Israel. So Mordecai refuses to bow down also. Haman gets mad. He wants to get some revenge on this stupid guy who is flouting his authority, right? And then he finds out Mordecai's a Jew, and his anger ramps up tremendously because Mordecai is a descendant, a shirt-tail relative, I guess, of a king of a tribe that several centuries before, God had said to King Saul of Israel and the prophet Samuel, when you fight this tribe, you're going to defeat them in battle, and I want you to completely destroy them. Everything. Let nothing live. And when they went to battle, King Saul and the armies didn't do that. They killed most of the animals, but kept the really good ones. And they let the king live so that they could take him prisoner of war and parade him around, I guess. The prophet Samuel found out about this, went and confronted Saul and said, you didn't do what the Lord commanded you to do. You could no longer be king. He had the army kill all the animals, and he had them kill King Agag also. Agag was the name of the Amalekite king at that time. And we know in Esther that we seem to know in Esther that Haman appears to be some kind of shirt-tail relative of King Agag. And so he has this long-standing grudge against the Jews, and when he finds out that Mordecai is a Jew, he takes it in his mind. He's not only going to get rid of Mordecai, he's going to kill all the Jews in the whole Persian Empire. That's where we leave it, where we left it on Sunday. But we had these conversations along the line also. What similarities do we see between the kingdom of Persia in those days and our days? We see a great disparity of wealth. We see that the wealthy have so much wealth they don't know what to do with it, and that the people who don't have the wealth are the working stiffs, and they're struggling along. Some of them are even refugees. Some of them even have to think that they have to hide who they are so that they won't get noticed in the wrong way. We talked about the emphasis on looks, beauty, appearance for women. We talked about how there are still some parts in our society, and indeed in some cultures in the world, where the men are absolutely the rulers of the home, and the women have to obey the men. There's an expectation of that in some cultures, and even in some parts of our own American society. We also talked about the fact that some people, when they have a personal offense committed against them, they hold on to that. And they can't forgive, and they can't be reconciled. They just want to go out and take their revenge on the person who offended them. And that even sometimes that revenge has a generational component where it goes back for generations. There's that grudge. And as somebody said, it's kind of like the Hatfields and the McCoys. You know, there's a feud that goes on for years until nobody really remembers exactly how the stupid thing started. But they feel like they have to continue until their opponent or their enemy is completely destroyed. Well, that's where we're going to leave Esther and Haman and Mordecai until this coming Sunday. So I hope that you'll be able to join us, maybe in person at our Bible class, which is at 9:30 on Sunday morning after our worship service, or right here on Facebook. We'll be hoping that the video will be live so that you can follow along with us. And if not, hopefully there won't be any glitches or problems. Then you'll be able to catch up with us later on in the day because we'll post it to Facebook after we're done as well. So God bless you. God take care of you. And Lord willing, we'll see you Sunday some way or another.